At 5:42 a.m. on October 3, 2024, Sarah Chen stood on a hydraulic platform 12 feet above ground in a Honeycrisp orchard near Yakima, Washington, watching her crew of 8 workers pick apples at rates far below the contracted minimum of 900 pounds per person per day. 46 years old, orchard operations manager for Columbia Valley Fruit Company, coordinating 380 seasonal workers across 2,400 acres. The digital tracker showed her crew averaging 640 pounds per worker through yesterday, a 29% shortfall that triggered contract penalties of $12,000 per day. Her packing facility coordinator had texted at 5:20 a.m., 3 sorting lines down for calibration repairs. Processing capacity reduced to 68% until noon. Standard practice said pull workers from slow sections and redeploy to faster picking varieties where productivity met targets. Her harvest schedule showed 420 acres of Honeycrisp apples, the most valuable variety at $42 per 40-pound box, reaching peak maturity today, with quality degrading 8% per day of harvest delay. Chen radioed her crew supervisors. They'd keep every worker on Honeycrisp regardless of productivity, work 14-hour shifts, and accept the penalty costs to capture premium prices before quality dropped. Washington State's apple empire operates as a coordinated system producing 12 billion apples annually, from 175,000 acres that supply 65% of U.S. fresh apple consumption. The operation requires recruiting, transporting, and managing 40,000-plus seasonal workers during the August to November harvest window, working orchards planted at densities reaching 1,200 trees per acre on modern high-density systems, where rows stand 10 feet apart and trees grow on dwarfing rootstock that keeps fruit within 12 feet of ground level. Hydraulic platforms move workers through rows at 0.3 miles per hour while they pick apples into bags holding 40 pounds, emptying into bins that accumulate 800 to 900 pounds before being transported to packing facilities. The harvested fruit moves through 150-plus packing facilities equipped with automated optical sorting systems, computer-controlled grading, and controlled atmosphere storage, maintaining 32 degrees Fahrenheit, with reduced oxygen levels that extend shelf life to 12 months. This is agriculture as precision manufacturing, where variety-specific harvest timing windows measure in days. Labor productivity determines profitability. Feckin storage technology enables year-round distribution of fruit, picked in 90-day windows. Sarah Chen had managed apple harvest operations for 18 years, starting as a crew supervisor in 2006, earning $32,000 annually, coordinating 40 workers. Her parents had emigrated from Taiwan in 1985, working Washington orchards through the transition from standard density planting at 150 trees per acre to high-density systems at 1,000-plus trees. Her father had picked apples for $8 per hour in the 1990s, when harvest was less mechanized. Workers climbing ladders, carrying 40-pound picking bags, moving bins manually. Hydraulic platforms arrived in the 2000s, eliminating ladders and increasing productivity from 600 pounds to 1,000-plus pounds daily per worker. Chen became operations manager in 2015, coordinating the complex logistics where 380 workers across multiple varieties and orchards had to synchronize with packing facility capacity, storage availability, and market timing that determined whether Honeycrisp sold for $42 per box or $28 per box, depending on harvest date and quality scores. The hydraulic platforms Chen's crews operated cost $85,000 each. Equipment Columbia Valley owned as part of a $12 million harvest infrastructure. Each platform held 8 to 12 workers standing on an elevated deck that hydraulically adjusted height as they moved down tree rows, and the machine crawled forward on tracks while workers picked apples on both sides, dropping fruit into padded bags, emptying into a central bin that was mechanically dumped when full. The platforms eliminated ladder time, reduced physical strain, and increased picking speed by 40% compared to traditional methods. But they also required skilled operators, constant maintenance, and created bottlenecks when machines broke down. One platform failure idled 10 workers earning $19 per hour while generating zero revenue. The economics were unforgiving. At wholesale rates of $42 per 40-pound box for premium Honeycrisp, each acre yielding 1,000 boxes generated $42,000 in gross revenue. But that was the top end. Standard Red Delicious brought $18 per box. Gala apples, $24 per box. The variety mix determined overall profitability, and labor costs consumed 45 to 50% of gross revenue. $18.90 per box for picking, sorting, packing, and storage. Materials including boxes, labels, and packaging, $4.20 per box. Equipment costs, $2.80 per box. Cold storage and controlled atmosphere, $3.40 per box. Marketing and distribution, $2.10 per box. Total costs, $31.40 per box against $42 revenue for Honeycrisp. That left $10.60 profit per box, a 25% margin. But Red Delicious at $18 per box against $31.40 costs meant losing $13.40 per box. The operation survived by maximizing high-value varieties and minimizing low-value acreage. One miscalculation in harvest timing. Picking Honeycrisp 3 days late when quality dropped and price fell to $32 per box turned a $10.60 profit into a 60-cent profit and destroyed margins across 420 acres. At 7:15 a.m., Chen's crews had picked 84,000 pounds of Honeycrisp across 32 acres. The fruit looked excellent. Color scores averaging 92% on the visual grading scale. For firmness testing at 16 pounds of pressure. Sugar content measuring 14.2% bricks. Premium grade. But the productivity remained low. Her tracker showed workers averaging 680 pounds each through the morning, still 24% below target. The penalty meter was running, $500 per hour in contract shortfall charges that would total $12,000 by day's end if rates didn't improve. Her phone buzzed at 8:40 a.m. Text from the packing facility. Lines back online. We can handle full volume now. But storage cold room 3 had compressor failure overnight. We've got 48 hours before fruit in that room starts warming above spec. Chen calculated instantly. Cold room 3 held 280,000 pounds of apples harvested 2 days ago. Mostly Gala variety worth $24 per box. If temperature rose above 34 degrees, the fruit would begin respiring, consuming sugar, softening, and degrading quality. At 48 hours to compressor repair, she had to move that fruit into alternative storage or to immediate packing and shipment. But alternative storage was already at 92% capacity. Immediate packing meant disrupting the Honeycrisp processing schedule. She made the call. Divert packing facility capacity to process the endangered Gala fruit immediately. Slow down Honeycrisp intake. The decision protected $168,000 worth of Gala inventory at risk, but created a new problem. Bins of fresh-picked Honeycrisp would sit in field holding areas for 8 to 12 hours before packing, during which quality could degrade if temperatures climbed. The weather forecast showed afternoon highs reaching 68 degrees. At that temperature, freshly picked apples needed cooling within 6 hours to prevent quality loss. Chen called her logistics coordinator. Rent mobile cooling units. I need 3 refrigerated containers at the Honeycrisp orchard by noon. We'll use them as field staging until the packing line can resume. That's $4,200 for 3 units for 24 hours. Do it. We can't risk quality degradation on premium fruit. The emergency costs kept accumulating. Productivity penalties, $12,000. Mobile cooling rental, $4,200. Together, they consumed $16,200 of profit that would have to come from somewhere in the operation's margins. An apple farming looked simple from outside. Grow fruit, pick fruit, sell fruit. The reality was constant crisis management where equipment failures, labor shortfalls, and timing pressures created cascading problems that got resolved by operators absorbing costs. By noon, Chen's operation had picked 180,000 pounds of Honeycrisp. The mobile refrigerated containers had arrived and were staged at field edges, maintaining 34-degree temperature for bins awaiting packing facility capacity. Her crew productivity had improved slightly to 740 pounds per worker, still below target but trending better. The afternoon shift started at 1 p.m. with instructions to push harder. Some workers would hit 1,000+ pounds by end of day. Others would struggle to reach 800 pounds. The variation reflected skill, experience, physical capability, and motivation differences that no amount of management could fully control. Her daughter Jessica called at 2:30 p.m., 24 years old, and working in Columbia Valley's Business Analytics Department after graduating from Washington State University. "Mom, I've been running numbers on the Honeycrisp timing. If we finish harvest by October 5th, we capture $42 per box pricing. If we slip to October 7th, the market analysis shows prices dropping to $38 based on competing supply from other growers hitting market simultaneously. We're on pace to finish October 6th. That's a $4 difference per box times 10,500 boxes. That's $42,000 in lost revenue for missing the window by 1 day." Chen knew the math. Apple farming operated on precision timing where variety-specific maturity, market pricing cycles, and competitor harvest schedules all converged into narrow windows of optimal profitability. Hit the window and margins were strong. Miss by 3 days and profits evaporated. The pressure was relentless. By 6:20 p.m., the crew had picked 420,000 pounds total. Chen walked the orchard as sunset approached, checking fruit remaining on trees, assessing how many more days of harvest this block required. Maybe 180,000 pounds remained. One more full day of picking would finish it. She'd make the October 5th deadline. Barely. The packing facility called at 7:45 p.m. "Cold room 3 compressor is fixed. We'll start refilling tonight. Your Honeycrisp can resume normal processing flow tomorrow morning." The crisis had been managed. The costs had been absorbed. The operation continued. Sarah Chen compiled the numbers on October 6th after completing the Honeycrisp harvest. Total picked: 420 acres producing 10,500 boxes. Gross revenue at $42 per box, $441,000. Labor costs at $18.90 per box, $198,450. Other costs at $12.50 per box, $131,250. Base profit, $111,300. Subtract productivity penalties, $12,000. Mobile cooling rental, $4,200. And compressor repair cost allocation, $8,400. Actual profit, $86,700. So that's $206 per acre versus the projected $265 per acre if everything had gone perfectly. One equipment failure and one labor productivity shortfall had consumed 22% of the profit margin. She met with Jessica on October 10th to discuss the season outlook. Jessica showed projections. Apple markets were oversupplied, with prices for most varieties down 12 to 15% compared to last season. Honeycrisp remained strong, but Gala, Fuji, and Red Delicious were barely covering costs. The operation's overall margin across all varieties would come in around 8 to 10% versus the 15 to 18% margins from 3 years ago. Mom, we need to talk about what happens when margins compress to zero. The industry's planting more high-density Honeycrisp every year. Eventually, oversupply hits premium varieties too. What's the plan when $42 boxes become $32 boxes? We either get more efficient or we get out. There's no more efficiency to extract. We're already running at maximum productivity, and the physics of manual fruit picking creates a ceiling we can't exceed. Chen knew her daughter was right. Apple farming had optimized nearly everything. Planting density, mechanical platforms, storage technology, distribution logistics. But the fundamental constraint remained human hands picking fruit one apple at a time, until robotic harvesting became economically viable, and current prototypes remained years from commercial scale. Labor costs would continue consuming 45 to 50% of gross revenues. When prices dropped, that proportion increased until operations lost money. Sarah Chen continued managing apple harvest through 2026, watching market prices decline as Washington's acreage expanded beyond demand growth. In spring 2027, Columbia Valley Fruit Company announced it was reducing acreage by 30%, eliminating lower-value varieties and consolidating operations. Chen received a position offer managing the reduced operation at identical salary. She declined. After 18 years of continuous crisis management earning margins that barely justified the stress, she took a supply chain management position with Amazon's fresh food logistics division, earning $120,000 annually with benefits and predictable hours. Jessica remained with Columbia Valley for 2 more years, then joined an agricultural robotics startup developing automated apple picking systems. The technology wasn't ready for commercial deployment, but the investors believed it would be within 5 years. When robotic harvesting became viable, labor costs would drop from $18.90 per box to maybe $6 per box, creating 40% margin improvement. The companies that deployed the technology first would survive. The operations dependent on manual labor would fail. Washington's 175,000 acres continue producing 12 billion apples annually, supplying 65% of U.S. consumption, generating $3.2 billion in revenue, supporting an industry where margins compress annually as acreage expands faster than demand. The harvest happens every fall, executed by 40,000 seasonal workers whose productivity determines profitability in a system increasingly uneconomic at manual labor costs. The fruit reaches stores year-round through storage technology that extends shelf life. The growers struggle to extend their business viability. The robots are coming. The question is whether family operations survive long enough to adopt them. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe. Your support helps us preserve these histories of American agriculture's transformation. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from and whether you understand the labor economics crushing tree fruit farmers. Thank you for keeping their stories alive.